Kings. Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P, for what is your Chelsea preseason roundup, where we look at all the players we brought in, the style of play under Mauricio Pochettino, analyze it, rip it apart, figure out if this is the style of play that's going to take us forward to the titles, to the Champions League, all of that stuff. We're going to be looking at all of these little nuances in our game that Mauricio Pochettino has brought to the club. But before we get into all that, I do need you guys to do me a big favor. This is a new season. I'm asking you guys again for the same things because we need to grow this channel. Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button to keep up with the latest and the newest. And if you don't already know, I do have a sponsor for the show. They go by the name of Major League Socks. And fellas, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Hit them up. The link will be in the description. Going into the 2023-2024 season, I was most excited about the changes that Chelsea have made in the attacking areas. Gone were the likes of Mason Mount, Kai Havertz, Christian Pulisic. Ziyech is no longer considered a starter for this team or even a squad player. And of course, Lukaku still in the balance there, but lots of overhaul in that position. And the players that they brought in just look hungry and ready to score some goals for us, which is sorely needed from a squad that only scored 38 goals in the Premier League last season. Every time I say that, my head just hurts. It hurts me to think that Chelsea only scored 38 goals in 38 games. But let's hope that we've addressed that issue, starting with Nico Jackson. This guy has the lot. I'm going to say it right now. I knew nothing about him coming into the season. I knew nothing about him when we purchased him. I did watch a few comps and I did understand, I did start to realize what kind of game he does have. Now, using the preseason as evidence, we can all agree that Nico Jackson loves to play on the shoulders of defenders. Obviously uses his pace and power to get in behind, times his runs incredibly well. I don't think he was offside once in the entire preseason. And of course, he uses his pace and power to an incredible effect. And it just so happens for me that this is a style of play that Mauricio Pochettino has built and adapted to suit Nico Jackson's needs. You know, he's a guy that loves to get in behind, as I said before. And a lot of what we're seeing from our midfielders and defenders is they're recognizing that he's a willing runner. He's a guy that is constantly on the shoulder, and we're playing that ball early to him and asking him to go fetch it, and he's doing a great job of doing that, getting on the ball. Whether he's in wide areas, he's looking for it to cut it back inside to find somebody inside, or when it's over the top and he's getting inside the 18, 1v1 with the keeper, he's either looking to round him or just belt it past him. And you know, these are the things that I want to see from my striker, a guy that has the awareness and understanding of what to do when he's in the critical areas in the box. And for me, Nico Jackson at the tender age of 21 is showing that he has adapted to this particular skill set. He has it in his locker and he's using it to an incredible effect. And you know, if anything this season, if he just continues to work on, you know, his timing and his synergy and his chemistry with his teammates, I think he's going to easily score 15 to 20 goals for us. There's no question in my mind that that will happen. But I don't think that's all his game entails. Like, I think that when he comes deep to collect, playing in the half spaces, he possesses an uncanny ability to not only link up play effectively well, but when he gets in and he's running at defenders, he's not using his tunnel vision at this point. He's surveying the pitch and he's looking for players in better positions that may lead to goals for Chelsea. And this is what I like about his game. Like, obviously you want your striker to be selfish when they have opportunities to score goals, but for Nico Jackson, when he has the likes of, you know, Nkunku, Mudryk, you know, other guys coming onto the ball and whatnot, Sterling for instance, you know, you want to see him lay it off to somebody who's in better position to score goals, because all those guys are capable of scoring. And you know, he's done that incredibly well in the preseason. I think he finished with about 3 or 4 goals and maybe about 3 or 4 assists as well. So you know, we're seeing that his game is not just about scoring goals. He has a lot to add. I mean, not only is he obviously a very, very influential player on the pitch, but he looks like a real likable guy off the pitch as well, saying all the right things in the media. You know, you see he gets along well with his teammates and whatnot. And I just feel like in Nico Jackson we have a striker who, you know, will do the business for us, will give us more output than we've seen in years past for Chelsea strikers. And that's not to say that he doesn't need competition for the place. I think that every position at this club should be a healthy competition, you know. So I expect Chelsea to look in the transfer window to look for somebody else to come in. And, you know, that should help keep him hungry, keep him sharp and whatnot, because when you look at the striker position, everyone goes through a bad patch of form. Everyone goes through spells where they're just not scoring. And once the confidence drops, you need somebody to push you, to get you back into the right state of mind, the right frame of mind to start scoring goals again, you know, find your best football again. So hoping that Chelsea go back in the window and at least find somebody to complement what we do have in Nico Jackson, somebody that maybe can be a little bit more of an aerial threat. Somebody that can hold up the ball a little bit better. Not that he's done a bad job at that, but I just feel like we need somebody with a little bit more stature in that regard, somebody that is good in the air and is capable of winning aerial duels. That's the only knock that I have on Nico Jackson right now. I don't think that he's very good in the air, but with that said, all other aspects of the game seem to be of a level and of a quality that we can use going forward in this season. Now, the story broke early today that Christopher Nkunku will be out for about 3 to 4 months with an MCL injury, which requires surgery. And I can't tell you how disappointed I am to hear this news. I think Christopher Nkunku was the guy that I was depending on to be our talisman, a guy that we could rely on to be our assister, our goal scorer, the guy that can operate in the half spaces, you know, the guy that can connect the midfield to the attackers, be our number 10, be our, basically our offensive thinker, the guy that when he gets on the ball, he's a guy that, can decide matches for you. I don't necessarily think that we have another player in our ranks that can do the things that he does, score goals, assist goals, dribble pass, play in the half spaces, be the conduit for your attack the way he can. And he was such an integral piece to what I think Mauricio Pochettino wanted to do in attack. And the hope here is that somebody else can come into the squad and provide us with some of the skills that Christopher Nkunku displays. And obviously we won't have a like-for-like substitutions at this point in time because you don't just have Christopher Nkunku's on your bench. So I guess we have to ask ourselves who's the next man up. And for me, it's got to be Mykhailo Mudryk, who Chelsea purchased in the January transfer window and, looked every bit like a world beater in his first game against Liverpool and then just struggled to find fitness and form to carry on. But this is his time now. When we lose a guy like Christopher Nkunku to injury, long term, the hope here is that Mykhailo Mudryk can come in and fill the void somewhat. I mean, they aren't the similar players. They don't play with the same sort of game. I think that Mykhailo Mudryk uses more of his pace to get in behind. He's a guy that wants to be a finisher more so than a guy that can operate in the half spaces. But I really do believe that he has the capabilities to be a difference maker for us in the final third. I mean, he is electrifying when he's in form. And if preseason is any evidence of what he can be like this season, I think that we're in for a fantastic year for Mykhailo Mudryk. He looked fantastic. Obviously, his fitness was there. His touches, every one of his touches seemed like he was just growing in confidence. He understood his role. I mean, offensively, specifically, I still think he needs to learn a lot on what he needs to do defensively on the defensive end and in transition. But every one of his touches in the preseason for me, I felt were very much meaningful and had an intent to hurt teams. And this is what you want from a guy that possesses his skill and quality. The one goal that he did score was a fantastic one. Connecting with Nico Jackson on a 1-2. They're showing they have a little bit of chemistry there and just belting it into the lower half of the net. He has all the skills, all the quality to be a world beater. I think that what is lacking right now is just his cerebral game. He has to be able to think the game a little bit and take on the high level of instruction that is being afforded to him by Mauricio Pochettino. If he can take that stuff on and continue to grow and mature as a footballer, I don't think that we're going to have a problem with that left wing position. Now, a massive surprise in this preseason has got to be Ian Maatsen, who many touted as a left back. Many thought that he would be challenging, for that left back position with Colwill and Cucurella, and Pochettino came in and had different ideas altogether. What I've come to understand with Ian Maatsen is this guy is a footballer. He's a guy that takes on assignments regardless of where they are on the pitch and understands them and understands his role immediately. He played essentially as an inside forward, a number 10, you would say. We played with 2 10s and 2 8s. With Chilwell providing width on the left, it often gave Ian Maatsen the opportunity to cut in and play more of a number 10, play off of our striker and build attacks in there. And he's done it extremely well. He did it extremely well, whether he was on the left or the right. It didn't matter. He was very, very effective. Understands how to play in the half spaces, uses pace, is very much an intense presser, a guy that when he gets on the ball, has a depth enough touch to play it in behind. And above all else, he's a finisher. He scored at least 2 or 3 goals in the preseason, 2 goals for sure, and then had a couple other opportunities that just narrowly missed. And you know, for a young player learning his football still, a young player adapting to a new role in a new team, like, man, his IQ and the football acumen for this guy, it has to be said, is extremely high. Like, how do you go from being a left back at Burnley to, you know, a number 10 at Chelsea and show no drop off, no real lack of understanding in the quality there? So I'm very optimistic about what he can do right now. I think if you're looking for a more natural replacement to Nkunku, based on what I've seen in the preseason, I think that person could be Ian Maatsen, a guy that is comfortable playing on the left, a guy that is comfortable coming inside, and of course, you know, playing in the half spaces and whatnot. So I look for him to have a meaningful role now going forward. Of course, with the injury with Nkunku, he's going to be giving a lot more opportunities to get on the pitch and show what he can do, and let's just hope that he can take those opportunities. Now, in the case of Carney Chukwuemeka, I have a lot of time for this guy. I really do believe that he has the ability to play for this Chelsea Football Club. It's really just now applying himself the right way, taking on the instruction from Mauricio Pochettino. Obviously, we've seen him predominantly play as that number 8, number 10 role, you know, in the preseason, where he was mostly used in the final third, didn't really come deep to help with the build-up in the first phase, second phase. He was predominantly used in tight spaces in the final third, and he's very good at that. Like, I find that the quick passes, the 1-2 passes, he understands those movements extremely well and executes it quite well as well. His dribbling wasn't too bad as well. These are the things that you want in a number 10. These are the things that you want in the final third. Somebody that understands that when the game speeds up in those areas, you have to slow down and kind of like meticulously, you know, plot where you want to put the ball and whatnot. And he seems to have that understanding in droves. It's the other aspects of his game that I think needs a little bit of work. Obviously, his pressing, if we're pressing high, we need him to be one of the pressers, and we need him to be effective in that role. He also needs to be able to drop when we need to drop, and, you know, be more solid defensively. In the last game against Dortmund, I think that he was given an opportunity by Pochettino to, you know, really assert himself in that role as a number 8 and number 10. And I don't think that, you know, aspects of his game that you wanted to see a maturation on, like the defensive work, you know, the transition work, you know, just commanding the ball and wanting it at all time, come to receive it, you know, not shying away, hiding and whatnot. I feel like for large portions of that game, he just did not really assert himself in the fashion that I want to see him play at. But, you know, he was given that opportunity because the work that he's done up until then was extremely good. And his touches seem to be quite deft. And, you know, I want to see him get in the box a little bit more and maybe score a few more goals before he can be trusted in that role exclusively. But, you know, the building blocks are there for him. And I feel like if he continues to get opportunities in that role, he's going to flourish. Now, if there's one person that I observed in preseason who I felt did not really pick up the assignments and did not really offer much in the attacking areas going forward, it was Raheem Sterling. And this is a senior player, experienced player, you know, one of the leaders in that final third for us. And man, it was so hard to watch him play in preseason. Like, every time the ball went to Raheem Sterling, it felt like it was a black hole, and it was an almost instant turnover. His passing wasn't very good. His ability to dribble past wasn't very good. You know, his ball striking wasn't very good. Didn't score any goals, obviously, despite getting into incredible areas with the interplay between him and Nico Jackson and others and whatnot. And, you know, I just felt like the only thing about his game that I felt was, you know, something that he can hang his hat on. His effort was still there. And it feels like his fitness is back again. You know, it's still about his touches. They just seem really timid, and it seems like he's not really on the wavelength with the other players on the pitch. And one of the things that I've noticed in football for myself is that when you have players on the pitch that want to play at a certain tempo, and you have other players on the pitch that want to, you know, slow it down to play at a different tempo, the synergy is completely off, and you don't have a natural chemistry there. And for me, I feel like that's what was going on with Raheem Sterling. You had guys that want to play quickly, you know, 1-2 runs in behind with Nkunku, with Nico Jackson, with Maatsen, with Chukwuemeka, and with Raheem Sterling. I just felt like there wasn't a natural rhythm there with him and the other players who wanted to play it a little bit more quickly. He seemed to be dwelling a little bit too long and missing the runs and mistiming passes and whatnot. So, you know, there just seems to be a lack of understanding between what our new attackers want to do on the pitch and perhaps what Pochettino wants them to do and what we're getting from Raheem Sterling. I'm not really ready to give up on him yet. I still think that he has some quality that we can use and utilize on the pitch on a day-to-day basis. I thought he worked extremely hard, as I said. But man, it's going to be hard for me to see, you know, watch this Liverpool game on Sunday and see Raheem Sterling starting on the right wing. It's not that I don't think that he will. I think that he will. It's just, man, if you're going to reward people for the preseason and whatnot, you have to think that, you know, Raheem Sterling would be one of the guys that would not be given the opportunity to start. On current form, he's just been one of the more underwhelming players in preseason. But, you know, with that said, you know, he has the quality, he's shown it in the past. It's just now, can he find it again? Now with Noni Madueke, we haven't really seen much. He's been out injured the entire preseason after coming back from the U21s. And, you know, when I saw him last year, he came into Chelsea, he did some good things. I thought that, you know, he's raw, he has a lot to learn and whatnot, but, you know, he's a guy that is a willing runner and wants to, you know, dribble past and whatnot and use his ability and technique to get in behind. And, you know, this is obviously something that we can use in the squad and whatnot. Not sure if I see him as a starter per se. I would see him more as an impact sub at this point, but, you know, he certainly has qualities that we can utilize in this Chelsea setup. And, you know, I don't want to say too much about him because I don't know exactly how he will be deployed under Mauricio Pochettino. I think that if we were to use him, you're certainly going to want to have our right back or our right back, if we're playing that 3-2-4-1 that I keep speaking of, you're going to want him to sit at home because I don't think that Madueke possesses the ability to track back and be effective there. So, I mean, this might be a situation where you're playing Madueke on the right and you have somebody like Axel Disasi playing at that right back position or that right center back position for coverage because he's comfortable in the wide areas and is decent, you know, decent enough to cover for the, you know, the inefficiencies that may occur with Madueke on that flank. So, I mean, if we're looking at that asymmetrical setup, I'm thinking that our right back will have to stay home when Madueke is playing in that position. The things I want to see him do going forward is not only work it into the box, but also pick passes and score goals. These are the two things that he has to show that he can do more consistently for him to be a difference maker for us on the pitch. And I don't think that we're done bringing in attackers. I think that there's a strong link between Chelsea and Mykhailo Mudryk, and I'm all for it. I think that this guy is precisely the type of player that we need to bring into the squad right now. He's another playmaker, a guy that is very, very good at, you know, picking passes, very, very good at working, manipulating the ball, surveying the pitch, and analyzing where the best options are on the pitch to play the ball to. And this is, his ball delivery is incredible. This is the type of thing that I think is lacking in our attackers right now. His timing of when he releases the ball seems to be exceptional. We just currently don't have anyone that possesses that skill set at the club. And I think that when you talk about the chemistry of our attackers and whatnot and what is missing and what we could use to help us be a little bit more efficient in the final third, it is exactly what you get from Mykhailo Mudryk. So I'm hoping that we get this deal over the line. Obviously, there is a strong understanding that he's still injured and, you know, may not be available for the first couple weeks of the season, but that's no reason not to go out and sign a guy like this because, you know, obviously the season's very long, and beyond that, you know, his football is just now starting to evolve, and you get a guy like that at the Chelsea club kicking on and providing, you know, the weaponry that we need to like pierce through tough defenses, and another option to do that. I mean, that's a must sign for me. So let's hope that we can get that over the line. I think that, you know, what we've done to address the needs for Mr. Pochettino to be successful has been executed at a high level. And, you know, I like the football that he's showing. I think that he brings a stylistic and aesthetically pleasing brand of football. And, you know, if preseason is any indication of what the dynamic is like at the club right now within the playing staff, it seems like he also brings a camaraderie and a togetherness that hasn't been there for quite some time. As a manager, as a leader, you need to be able to bring people together under one idea of football. And it seems to me like, for the most part, that is exactly what's happening at this club right now. We have a real synergy. We have a real, you know, everyone seems to be fighting for each other, fighting for the badge, which is something that I value highly and what was lacking for much of last year. It just seemed like we were rudderless and headless half the time. And, you know, this is what I need for my football club. I need guys to be dedicated to a specific brand of football. I need that brand of football to speak to the ethos of the club, which it is currently. And I need for the players to run through walls for the manager. And everything right now seems to be pointing to, yes, this is what is occurring. And if it continues, if we continue to grow, if we continue to evolve our football, if we bring in some of these other players like I mentioned, let's hope that we have a little bit more variety to our game, and, you know, we can find solutions to a multitude of games, like the difficulties that they do present. I think Maurizio Pochettino has shown a propensity of doing that over his career, finding different solutions to different problems and whatnot. And this is how you are successful in the Premier League. This is how you are successful as a football club. When, you know, somebody throws one idea at you, you know, low block defenses, do you have the capabilities to solve that jigsaw puzzle? Do you have the capabilities to unlock that defense and score goals still? I feel like we're starting to work towards that particular angle. When teams are pressed up the pitch, do you have the ability to work your ingenuity, work out of that, and then get in transition and get in 1v1 situations from there? Can you transition the ball from defense to midfield to offense extremely quickly to catch teams off guard? We're seeing that we can do that. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done in that aspect, don't get me wrong, but I feel like once we get the pieces that we need, like the Caicedos and the Enzos, up to speed again, I feel like that seamless transition from defense to offense is something that's going to be a hallmark of Maurizio Pochettino's game. And going forward, I just want to see Chelsea remain the team that nobody is thinking about challenging. It remains a team that is just completely written off and not considered one of the top teams in the Premier League right now. That's the kind of season that I want to see Chelsea have. One that is low on expectations, but high on execution. And if we get that, I think that we're going to be laughing